The second core truth that really fires up centering prayer is the understanding that there's a spiritual nature to human beings. We don't just have our thoughts. That's not all that we are, rational processing. There's a deeper level, you might call it in modern terms, a consciousness, a deeper consciousness, an awareness beyond rational thoughts. And Christians believe that's called the spirit, or the Bible often uses the word heart. In Ezekiel chapter 36, God speaking through Ezekiel says, I will give you a new heart. I will put a new spirit in you. I'll take out your heart of stone and I'll give you a heart of flesh. And this was a promise from God about what would happen through the coming of Christ. And the work of God through Christ would be to renew the spirit, the heart of human beings so that they could connect with God. In fact, that verse, Ezekiel 36, goes on to say, and I will put my spirit in you. So that's the first thing to know about the spiritual nature of human beings. It's a blend. It's a place where the spiritual nature of God interacts with the spiritual nature of man. It's a place where God is present, as we discussed in the previous core truth. Jesus, in John chapter 3, was talking to Nicodemus, and Nicodemus asked him what it takes to enter the kingdom of God. The Jews had always had this great desire for the kingdom of God, but Nicodemus was trying to understand, how was Jesus saying you enter the kingdom of God? And Jesus said, you must be born again. And this flummoxed Nicodemus. He said, I don't understand. How do you get born again if you're already a grown man? You can't re-enter your mother's womb. Jesus said, I'm not talking about flesh giving birth to flesh, a physical birth. I'm talking about spirit giving birth to spirit. God's spirit has to rebirth your spirit for you to enter the kingdom of God. And the kingdom of God is a state of consciousness. It's a state of connection with God, a state of understanding God as Father, the way that Jesus understood God as Father. And Christians believe that transcends life. It transcends our fleshly life. When our bodies die, we move on. Our spirits stay awake. And Jesus added something very powerful here. He said, what this is like is the wind blowing. The spiritual nature of human beings, like the wind blowing. You can't see the wind, but you can see its effects. And that very nicely describes the spirit. You can't see it in terms of your rational consciousness, can't grasp it, can't put a definition to the spiritual nature, but you see its effects. If there's an infusion of love from God in your spiritual nature, you see that in your life. If there's an infusion of peace and of joy, which is what happens through centering prayer, you see that, and you can call that a tangible result. And that neatly also explains the exact process of centering prayer, that there's so much of it that you can't see. It's like the wind. We put aside the desire to see, the desire to think concepts about God, the desire to try and draw the wind, and we fill with this different part of us. So the practice of centering prayer is an entirely spiritual practice. There's very little use of rational consciousness. And it's like taking the bandage off. Our rational thoughts for most human beings are like a bandage over our spiritual nature, because we're so focused here that we don't allow the spiritual nature to be what it is. And that's actually a much bigger part of us than our thoughts. You aren't your thoughts. You are your spiritual nature. That's the part of you that's eternal. It's the part of you that is where God is. And it's the part of you that awakens when you turn to God. And it's the part of you that's in exercise during centering prayer.
Be still my heart and know you are God alone. Stop thinking so much and just let go. Be still my soul and rest. Humbly I confess, in my weakness your strength is perfect. For you alone are God, there will be no other, and you have won my heart more than any other. So Be still my heart, I know you are God alone. Stop thinking so much and just let go.